You know, something that comes up a lot today is just how much English you see everywhere. It makes you think, right?
Hmm.
Why is English like considered the most powerful language in the world? I bet it's crossed your mind maybe when you're online or thinking about travel.
Oh, absolutely. And for this deep dive, we looked at a really interesting source. It's actually an English language lesson that asks that exact question.
Ah, okay.
So it gives this concise view on why English is so globally dominant, you know, aimed at learners themselves.
Gotcha. So, our mission today really is to unpack those key reasons. We want to give you, the listener, a clear picture of why English has this, well, this influence, some solid takeaways.
Okay, so where does a source start?
Well, it kicks off with something pretty fundamental, communication.
Right, the idea that English works as a kind of go-between, a common ground for people from totally different countries.
Exactly. The source uses this example like someone from Japan talking to someone from Brazil.
Okay,
What
but
language are they most likely going to use?
probably English, right?
Yeah, exactly. The source calls it a practical bridge between people.
Yeah.
And that feels right. It's just useful for connecting across languages.
It really is. And think about how much global interaction there is now. Having a widely used bridge language,
Yeah.
it's pretty significant. It helps with conversation, obviously, but also like collaboration and just understanding internationally.
For sure. But that's just, one part of it.
Right. The digital world, that's another massive piece.
Oh, yeah. This is where it gets really stark. The material we looked at points out that over half of all websites are in English.
Wow. Over half.
Just think about that number for a second. The sheer amount of info, learning stuff, entertainment.
And what that means practically for anyone listening is that knowing English, well, it unlocks a huge chunk of the internet.
Definitely.
If you're trying to learn something new or research a topic or just find something to watch, chances are a lot of it is in English.
It's a major advantage, no question, in today's world. And it's not just online, right? It spills over into actual travel, interacting out in the world.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about, traveling somewhere you don't speak the language.
Mm-hmm.
The source mentions places like Germany, South Korea, even Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And it points out how often you'll see signs, menus, airport announcements in English.
It can make such a difference to how easy travel feels.
Yeah.
Less stressful. Imagine navigating a foreign airport just based on a language you don't know at all.
Yeah. Having English there can be a real um, lifesaver almost. It makes exploring the world feel much more doable for a lot of people.
It takes away some of the friction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that ease, it doesn't just stop at tourism. It feeds right into international business too.
Right. Business is another huge area. The source really emphasizes how many big international companies, well, they basically run on English.
Yeah, it's often the working language. It helps teams from different countries work together smoothly.
Yeah.
Everyone's on the same page linguistically.
And for our listeners, that translates directly into potentially more job opportunities, right?
Absolutely. Being proficient in English can open doors, career-wise, especially if you're looking at multinational companies or roles that involve international collaboration. It's often a key requirement.
Makes sense. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. What about education?
Education, yeah, another sphere where English has a massive footprint. The source notes that, top universities in places like the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, they primarily teach in English.
Okay. The usual suspects.
Right. But it's not just those countries anymore. The source also points out that universities in places like China or Germany or Turkey are increasingly offering programs taught entirely in English too.
So it's spreading even in non-English speaking countries.
Exactly. And from the listener's perspective, think about the options that opens up. Good English skills mean a much wider choice of universities and programs globally.
It really expands the possibilities for higher education internationally. And this isn't just for arts or humanities, is it?
Not at all, no. When you look at science and technology, the source is very clear. Most research papers, the vast majority, are published in English.
Wow. Okay.
Think about what that means. English is essentially the language for sharing new discoveries, tech advancements, for researchers collaborating in, medicine, engineering, computer science, all those areas.
It's the language of innovation,
Right.
in a way.
You could definitely say that. So if you want to keep up with the latest breakthroughs or even work in those fields, understanding English is, well, pretty essential.
Okay. That's powerful. Now let's talk about something maybe a bit lighter entertainment.
Ah, yes. Movies and music.
Uh,
The source definitely highlights how dominant English is there. Think Hollywood, think global pop music.
Yeah, it's hard to miss. Blockbuster films, chart-topping songs. So much of it originates in English.
And if you understand English, you get direct access to all of that. No waiting for subtitles or translations. You can just, enjoy it directly.
It definitely deepens the experience, I think. Getting the nuances in dialogue, understanding song lyrics properly, it just opens up more cultural content.
For sure. Now, to really get why English is in this position, we probably need to touch briefly on the history.
Yeah, the background is important. The source does mention the historical reasons, specifically the influence of the British Empire.
Right. The sheer reach of the empire over centuries
Mm.
meant English got established in loads of places.
Mm.
Administration, trade, education, it became embedded.
And then more recently, you have the rise of the United States as a global superpower.
Exactly. The source points to the U.S. influence as another major factor that sort of cemented and expanded English's global role after the empire.
So it's this combination, really. Empire laying the groundwork and then U.S. influence building on top of that.
Pretty much. Those historical waves really shaped where we are now.
Now, thinking about our listeners, some might be learning English, or maybe it's not their first language. The source has a really nice, encouraging message here. Oh, good. Yeah, that's important. It stresses that learning a language, it's a process. It takes time.
Right. And it's gradual, small gets of practice every day that really adds up. It's not about sudden leaps.
And the source gives some, practical tips.
Yeah, simple things. Watching videos, listening to music, reading short stories in English, and trying to speak it whenever you can, even just a little bit.
And crucially, it says perfection isn't the goal, right?
Exactly. Even native speakers make mistakes.
Yeah.
The key thing is just to keep trying, keep practicing. Don't let fear of messing up stop you from communicating.
That's such good advice. Communication is the aim, not flawless grammar on day one. Okay, so let's quickly recap the main reasons we've discussed for English's global power.
Sure. So we talked about it being a communication bridge, connecting people across language barriers.
Right, and its huge dominance online, giving access to so much digital information and content.
Then there's its role in making international travel easier and being the language of big global business.
Yep. Plus its importance in education, both in English-speaking countries and increasingly elsewhere, and especially in science and tech research.
And finally, its big role in global entertainment, movies, music.
And we touched on the historical roots, too, the British Empire and U.S. influence providing the foundation for all this.
So understanding these factors, it's valuable context for everyone
Yeah.
really navigating our interconnected world today.
Absolutely. Which leads to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to ponder.
Mm-hmm.
Given everything we've talked about, this wide influence of English in, well, almost everything, what changes might we see in the future? What could shift the global language landscape?
And what role might English play as things evolve?
Exactly. It's definitely something interesting to think about as we all continue to communicate and connect across the globe.